First of all, thank you very much for inviting me. It was such a treat to share my experience and speak about what it means to be working at an international organization. Speaking of myself, I've been a Korean government officer in the Ministry of Economy and Finance, 기획재정부, for about 20 years. I was involved in the formulation of economic policies in tax and customs, budget allocations, official development assistance, and others. I got lucky enough to have such a diverse career. It was so cool. Long time ago, Professor Lee Soohyung of your school and I used to be in the same department as junior officer in the ministry. I'm currently working at the Inter-American Development Bank since 2018, living in Washington, D.C. area, and as you can see, I'm now teleworking at home because of coronavirus. Thank you for inviting again. Yes, indeed, I was super lucky. During my service in the government, I took a privilege of working at 2 international organizations for 3 years each. One is the World Customs Organization, and the other is my current office in Inter-American Development Bank. WCO is a tiny organization based in Brussels, Belgium, with about 150 staff members. I'm sure some of you never heard of it. Its main purpose is to promote modernized customs procedures, offer capacity building for developing countries, especially corruption-sweeping African countries. And most importantly, it administers HS Code, which is globally adopted classification rules on traded goods. The IDB is a regional multilateral bank like the Asian Development Bank, but its playground is Latin America and Caribbean. It's basically a bank whose main operation is to loan large chunk of money and provide technical assistance to member countries for their social and economic development. Honestly speaking, for both cases, I did not go through the ordeal of so-called an open and competitive process. Instead, I was on a program in which Korean government offers its officers to an international organization. When the government proposes competent officers and hosting agencies usually accept him or her after interviews. As the government pays most expenses, international organizations secure workforce without paying out of their own pocket. In the WCO, I was deployed to research unit at the Office of Secretary General. My main job is to take part in a critical review of various documents which were produced and submitted by other departments. Based upon our team reviews, Secretary General made a decision, requesting more work or giving green lights to publicize. Sometimes, I drafted Q&As for Secretary General's interviews. When an event participation request was submitted to the Secretary General, we checked it out and proposed our views, whether you should join the event or not, and risks and benefits of that decision. Besides, I coordinated WCO's international events, Revenue Management Conference, and Customs Private Partnership Dialogue, both one-day conference. I was involved in the agenda setting, reached out to speakers, drafted invitation letters, and event scenarios. During my time in the WCO, I wrote 2 research papers. One is about a survey of single window implementation, and the other is also a survey analysis on how customs administrations around the world adopt and carry out paperless customs procedures. As Korean government officer, I was deeply involved in WCO Secretary General's meetings with high-ranking Korean figures, such as former Finance Minister Yoon Jung-hyun, President of G20 Committee 401, and UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon. As you could guess, these are all teamwork, which means when I drafted an initial paper or letter, my boss or my colleagues conducted peer reviews, giving me their critical opinions so that I could refine it again and again until everything looks fine and shine. It was quite a long and a rigorous process, but it definitely strengthened my job quality as well as my professional skills. This is an in-house work, so I did not have many occasions to travel. A typical description of my daily work is sticking on the computer almost all day long, punching keyboards, drafting a paper, or responding to an avalanche of incoming emails. At the current Inter-American Development Bank, my job is a little different from the WCO. I'm now with Physical Management Division. I'm not a regular staff like I was in the WCO, but instead, my position is an in-house consultant. And my job is to disseminate Korea's reform experience in physical affairs through participating in international events or advising technical matters or publishing a paper. As part of my job, I'm engaged in creating technical cooperation program called TC that are financially sponsored by the Korean government. The purpose of TC is to provide technical assistance based upon Korea's development experience to member countries, which intends to renovate their systems. With fellow officers, I launched several technical cooperation programs on various topics like digital tax administration, public procurement service, public investment, and public-private partnership. Korea disburses about $500,000 for each TC program. For instance, Latin America and Caribbean countries are highly interested in modernizing their tax collection system by harnessing information technology. As part of TC program, a dozen of high-level tax officers in the region came to Korea last year to attend the IDB seminar that was co-hosted by Korea's National Tax Service, 국세청. Besides, I went to various global events and made presentations, such as Korea's reform experience in public investment management in Brazil, and this is at APEC, Chile. And I also did machine learning in tax administration in Seoul, and blockchain in public procurement, and change management in state-owned enterprises in Seoul, and many others. As Korean government officer, I have been occasionally involved in interagency business between Korea and the IDB. I draft MOU documents for Korea's public procurement service, 조달청, and for the National Tax Service, 국세청, for the signing of the MOUs. When high-ranking officials such as Public Procurement Commissioner, 조달청장님, and the President of Korea Public Finance Information Service, 재정정보원장님, visited the bank, I drafted the justification note and joined the meeting. I'm currently doing final touches on a research paper about Korea's instrument for public infrastructure and investment management in collaboration with my fellow officer. This is about 예비타당성 제도 and 총사합비 제도. To me, it was not family or relocation complexities. It was English. I studied 3 years in America and got a master's degree. Because of this particular background, I was somewhat misguided that my English is okay at that time. I was not suspicious of my language capacity. I thought to myself that my reading and listening skills should be acceptable, despite some glitches in speaking and writing. But it did not take much time for me to wake up to the fact that my English has a lot to improve. My fellow officers in the research unit at the WCO were ultra-fast and incredibly precise in English reading and writing. No matter how bulky document we were assigned for review, in my observation, they handled adroitly without much time and effort. In contrast, I found myself struggling to read the assignments and was forced to spend a great deal of time in comprehension. I felt as I'm on a bike, whereas my colleagues ran a brand new Beamer or Mercedes. I had to come to my office in early morning and sometimes work night at home to make up. Slowly but surely I could catch up, but it was such a grueling and embarrassing experience. Writing was a stumbling block too. At school, I used to do English composition as part of term paper, team project, or office assignment during my studying and as grad assistant. But I hardly got a critical feedback or meticulous corrections on my write-up by my teachers or professors. Honestly, professional English writing was a dark territory to me, which I only scratched its surface but did not crack into and explore to the bottom. The only silver lining in the dark territory is that I had divinely competent and caretaking American boss who went out of his way to impart his immense writing skills to me. He meticulously corrected my drafts again and again, and again and again. And every time I got his correction, my English writing was getting better inch by inch. As I mentioned in the beginning, I have no experience in the regular recruiting process. In addition, you should be aware that this is based upon my observation and personal interpretations. Besides, this is about international financial organizations, particularly based in Washington, D.C., such as the IMF, World Bank, and IDB. So it may not exactly apply to other international entities like UN agencies. My first advice is you should get a sense of type of positions in the organization. For instance, in the IDB, the employment is categorized into 4 different kinds: management, specialist, operationist, and consultant. Management positions refers to heads of organization, vice president, directors, and managers. They are high-level figures. Some of their appointments are made through a political process. For instance, WCO's highest 5 positions are filled through voting every 5 years. Specialists are the backbone of workforce engaging in key operations, such as banks' loan negotiations, technical cooperation, research, and publication. Ph.D.s and experts with proven career are typical candidates. Open competition is a normal method of recruitment, which is initiated when there is a vacancy. There is no such a thing like annually conducted recruitment, in Korean 공채. Operationist is another type of regular position. They are responsible for administration, such as legal issues, HR, accounting, procurement, IT, and others. Lawyers, CPAs, HR specialists, IT experts are usual suspects in this category. No vacancy, no recruitment policy applies to. The last one is in-house consultant. They are hired for particular projects, and their contract is fixed term, aligned with project duration. Unlike specialists and operationists, long-time employment is not an option. Consultants may get an extension, but many international organizations nowadays hesitate to do so in order to avoid excessive reliance. But in fact, interestingly, I saw a mushroom of consultant job postings all through the year. They are most actively sought out and hired in the bank. I was told by a senior officer one day that in the IDB, there are as many consultants as the regular staff. In fact, out of 20-something Korean employees here, only 2 persons are regular staff, and the rest is all in this category. Among these 4 levels, think about where you want to be. Obviously, management is out of your league, as it is filled by senior officers either in the organization or member countries. For example, the Ministry of Economy and Finance 기획재정부 appoints its own government officials as executive directors in the IDB, IMF, World Bank. Specialist position is within our reach. Of course, for example, if you finish Ph.D. in America or UK, preferably from renowned universities, you have a shot in this category. Less frequently, those with MBAs or master's degrees are hired too. As for operationists, lawyers, CPAs, IT experts with some ground experience are typical candidates. Those who have previously worked with the IDB through consulting or outsourcing projects can get upper hand in their recruitment. Consultant positions are available to those with master's degrees in economics, public administration, international relations, political science, education, and business, depending upon the focus of particular project. Most job descriptions posted on website for consultant requires master's degree. In the IDB, as the vast majority of staff members came from Latin America and Caribbean, Spanish fluency is a big plus. My second message is that starting your career as a consultant is good entry, but you should do more homework, because this is temporary and short-term job with no possibilities of stable employment or promotion. You may obtain an extension after an initial contract of 2 to 3 years, but that is pretty much. Transferring from consulting job to regular staff position like specialist or operationist is painstakingly difficult unless you have a PhD or professional license. Therefore, most consultants in the IDB prepare their next chapter. I saw some Korean consultants look to Econ Ph.D. or JD. Others end up getting another consultant job at the World Bank or similar organization. I think it's highly recommendable to pursue Ph.D. after finishing consultant, because one of core activities in a national organization is undertaking research. Being a staff engaged in real-life research project will definitely improve research capacities. In the IDB, several former research fellows secured PhD admissions from such good universities. Honestly, I wouldn't recommend jumping to other international organizations on the same consultant status, because no matter how many years you do consulting, you are a consultant. Getting a concrete job with a promising future is all but out of the question. Recently, I was on a selection committee. Owing to Korean government contribution, the IDB hires about 5 to 10 Korean consultants every year. A Korean candidate failed the final interview, and one of the key considerations was that interviewee was working at a big Korean company as a regular staff. My fellow committee members thought that had she been selected, she would have sacrificed rather too much for a temporary job. My third message is, if possible, stay near international organization you aim to land. If employer or the company have prior business interactions with you, you will definitely get an edge, because they know your skill, personality, and performance. Employers are smart enough to know the risks when they hire somebody solely based on CVs or other credentials. When you and your potential employers get to know each other substantially enough, they will more likely hire you than an unknown superstar. This is normal practice in the job world. If you go for the IMF, World Bank, IDB, then you better study or work in DC area on Eastern Seaboard. For example, American University, George Washington, Georgetown, or University of Maryland. Physical proximity matters. These schools have ample occasions to collaborate with international organizations in research projects, co-hosting events, or other partnership. Once you belong to this community, you will have an access. I saw several cases that students with master's degree from here grabbed opportunities. So if possible, try to stay in the vicinity of organization you want. My next message is about English. You should be ruthlessly hard on your English training. Bluntly speaking, if you're not highly trained in English, nor do you have an intention to study hard, you better not think of joining an international organization. Koreans usually stumble upon at the sound of S as sports, W as Walmart, Z as organization, G as a language, and Q as a question. For 한국 토종, I highly recommend getting English tutor who will meticulously point out your weak spot and make it right. Hiring a private tutor is quite expensive, honestly, but it's the best way to improve your verbal skill. There is a saying that verbal expression or pronunciation is not so important as far as you could make your meanings crossed. But I have different views. If you are a buyer at a shopping mall, or a guest at a hotel, or diner at a restaurant, then pronunciation does not matter much. But if you are a professional service provider, you are required to speak professionally. Once you are hired, you are to spend a lion's share of your lifetime in the office. If your verbal expression and pronunciation is fuzzy, it will keep you bugging your boss, office mates, and client. I guess listening skill builds on reading skill. When you do not comprehend the sentence instantly, once you read it, you cannot understand it through listening. To improve your reading and listening skills, keep reading out every day and keep a vocabulary diary for practice. When you read, select quality material like Economist or Time. They are beautiful. These magazines offer smartphone applications for easy practicing. For example, when you encounter new vocabularies, just touch them on the screen and menu will take you to internal dictionaries instantly. Get a screenshot so that you could track them over and over again later. this is an effective way to study. There's no secret potion for writing. You should draft the paper as many times as possible and run it through by your boss, professors, or friends. Compositions and corrections should go together. Don't get stressed out by a bunch of reddish lines and tough comments, and always be proactive in seeking writing opportunities. My last message is that take international organization as one of your options, rather than a sole career destination. As a vocation, international organization is no doubt a plum job. 6-digit salaries with no income tax, abundant travel opportunities, prospect of lifetime employment, for example, IDB up to age 65. These are immense benefits and advantages. In addition, unusually fat pension scheme is particularly mouth-watering, especially given ultra-extended life expectancy nowadays. I'm sure that most of you are going to attain age 90. But that should not thrust you into thinking that international organization is your only career destination. The first reason is that job opening is rare. People in such a creamy organization tend not to quit, and lifelong employment is allowed for many regular positions. In case of WCO, jobs are only available for customs officers or other civil servants. No matter how beautiful your academic record is, and no matter how mesmerizing your professional skills are, if there is no vacancy, you have no chance and might have to wait for so long. Secondly, if you're tempted by financial gains, just look out, there are so many better jobs in the market. For example, CS majors nowadays can easily register 6-digit salary right after college education in US. And some star programmers' compensations can fly as high as $500,000. Although compensation in international organization is very generous, but it's on a flat curve. According to the World Bank, an average employee salary is about $150,000 a year, but that of executives is around $240,000. Not so much difference. Thirdly, countless mission travels can be a double-edged sword. Indeed, there are so many travel occasions. Even I myself, as a humble consultant, I went 11 missions last year alone. When you are young and healthy, you will enjoy them, but as you grow old, you might want to avoid frequent travels because of health issues or family support. There's a saying that the IMF employees retire with golden pension scheme, but some of them get to die soon after their retirement. When I was in the WCO, a senior Korean officer from other international entity occasionally visited for meetings. One day, he and I had lunch in downtown Brussels, and he indicated to receive $7,000 per month as pension. But sadly, soon after the retirement, he just passed away. I don't know it's about his frequent travel or not, but it says something. First, as much as you think international organization looks fantastic place you want to be, you should work hard to make yourself as excellent professional. Getting a Ph.D. in econ, finance, or other social science is proven track. Studying at professional schools and having concrete experience will strengthen your career too. Secondly, you need to get acquainted with people in a international organization because they tend not to hire someone whom they never met before. If you aim the IMF, World Bank, IDB, you better study at work in the Washington, D.C. area or Eastern Seaboard. Working in the Korean government or other public entities is a way to approach them too. Because international organizations do business with member countries and partners. You should have an excellent English proficiency in reading, speaking, writing. Do not rest on your current level. Don't cut corners. Stop compromising in the middle. Just keep practicing, and stretch yourselves. When you get an entry job, like JPO or consultant position, this is a good start. But you still have a way to go, because such jobs are usually temporary and expect you to leave soon. One of the ways to make most out of your time is jumping to advanced academic programs as your boss or senior officers will tout about your research potential, and you will already have gotten your hands on research. Lastly, let's admit that getting a job in an international organization is quite tough. Even if you are super duper excellent, you might have to wait until there is an opening. And this is global competition. So, I think you better think of jobs at international organization as one of your good career options, not only the career destiny. I'm sure by the time you are so good and well qualified for international organization, you will have several other excellent job career options too. Wish you guys good luck and thank you.